Hello and welcome back to another video. Many of my viewers have been requesting that I do a gluten-free budget challenge, so that's my challenge for this week. I'll only be eating meals that look good to me. I'll try to get the budget as close to $25 as possible. But don't worry, if you're on an extreme budget, I'll show you ways you can save even further. That being said, $25 a week in today's inflation probably is an extreme budget. In this video, I have meals that will be suitable for vegetarians as well as people eating on a low-carb diet. I'm headed to Walmart to see what kind of deals I can get. I'm going to do all of my shopping here. I do have a few items I'll be pulling directly from my own pantry, but I'm going to count them in the budget. So if you have to purchase everything at Walmart, you can do so. Just know that you'll probably save a little bit of money if you're shopping somewhere cheaper. However, I will say that I was surprised that they had some really good deals on produce at Walmart. Specifically, I found this corn on the cob for 33 cents each, so I picked up 5 and I'll be using that this week. If you can't find such a great deal on the corn on the cob, don't worry, go ahead and just pick up a frozen bag of corn. I came here to this Walmart specifically because it said that they had these green spinach gluten-free wraps that I wanted to use, and some of you may remember in the last couple of videos I purchased some of these regular spinach wraps at Sam's Club, and I've been eating those lately and actually really enjoying them, and so I thought I'd like to use them again and try the gluten-free variety. However, when I got here, even though online it said they had some in stock, there weren't any, so I had to make a decision on what I wanted to substitute, and in the end I decided to go with just the regular Mission gluten-free. I've never had gluten-free wraps before, so I'm excited to see if these are similar to the original. And then I was looking at the gluten-free breads, but ultimately I decided that I'm gonna go ahead and pass on that because it is a significant portion of the budget. I'll just stick with the wraps for now. I had picked up some turkey lunch meat at Sam's Club the week before, but I did notice that there were plenty of comparable options at Walmart. I was trying to find what I would use for the meat. I had an idea that I wanted to use a pork shoulder and make some carnitas, but I was pricing all of the meat, just trying to be pliable if I saw anything that was a good deal. I had in my budget for the meat that I wanted to spend $7, and it was imperative to my budget that I find something that would fit in there, and I knew that I would be paying probably a lot more at Walmart than if I would have just stopped by one of the ethnic stores and picked something up. However, I did do some searching and was able to find this smaller pork shoulder roast for $7.07, so that was just slightly over my budget, so I went ahead and purchased that. If you can find this on sale, you'll be able to purchase an even larger portion of meat for your family for the same amount of money. Here is everything that I got for the week. Some of the items I took out of my own pantry, like the oatmeal, and for those items I'll be counting the cost to buy the gluten-free oats at Walmart. My ingredients list along with prices will be in the description, so you can just simply copy and paste. I also have some ideas on how to make this an extreme budget for those of you who need to save more money. You just basically want to cut out the meat and substitute beans. I'll put more details for that in the description. And since gluten-free bread is so expensive, I thought I would use this rice paper to see how it would be if I made some turkey sandwiches using this paper. I'm choosing to use canned beans for convenience here, and also I like the flavor of the rosarita beans, but if you want to use dry beans, that's fine too. I'm counting in the budget a 16-ounce jar of Skippy peanut butter. You won't use all of it for this, so you should have some left over. I'm just using what I've got in the pantry because I'll only be using a small amount. I've got 18 eggs in the budget, which equals out to 9 per person per week. I also have these frozen vegetables. I plan to make some stir-fried rice. However, I didn't show it in the video, but you guys probably already know how to make stir-fried rice. If not, I will leave the recipe in the description. I've also made it on my channel before. I found a highly rated Carnitas recipe that I wanted to try. I thought it was perfect for our gluten-free week. I was a little bummed out when I realized I am out of garlic powder. I'm gonna have to go ahead and use garlic salt instead. I'm following the recipe as written, with the exception of I'm not adding cinnamon. The original recipe did call for cinnamon. I will link the original recipe in the description. If you want to use cinnamon, go ahead, but I was afraid that I would add it in and someone in my family might not like it. I know in the past when I've done budget challenges, it's been a real challenge trying to get my cheese to last all week. So this time I'm putting it in separate bags so that I always know how much cheese I have on hand. My first recipe is one that I've been wanting to try for quite a while now. A few months ago, a viewer told me about a dish called migas that is a huge Tex-Mex dish where she lives in Texas along the Mexico border. But migas, which means crumbs, is actually a dish that is made throughout other cultures as well, Spain, Portugal, but in those areas, instead of using the tortillas and eggs, they're using pieces of bread. And I would definitely like to explore those dishes as well. So if anybody has recipes for that, definitely let me know in the comments below. But I'm making the Mexican migas, and as far as I can tell, one of the main differences in the way people like to make their migas is how soft they allow their tortillas to be. I fried mine quite crisp, and then I'm going to put them in the egg when the egg is a little bit drier because I want them to have a little bit of chew to them. I don't want them to be completely soggy, but of course you can make this however you want. And I'm excited to try this in different ways with different cheeses and trying with different ingredients. This recipe was so delicious. I could eat this every morning for breakfast. It was that good. Something about having the refried beans along with it for breakfast, it just felt so luxurious. And I made my son a platter. He didn't want the jalapenos or the tomatoes, so his looked a little bit different, but he really loved his as well. Obviously, you can save some money if you make your own refried beans. I happen to love Rosarita refried beans, so those are always in my pantry, and I always have tortillas, so it just makes for a quick meal when I don't know what to eat. I had enough tomatoes that I thought I would go ahead and roast those and make my own small amount of salsa, but we had a heat wave this week and I honestly didn't feel like cooking that much, so I just used some of my bottled sauce. This will work just as well with the quick oats. I'm just using the regular oatmeal. I thought this turned out really well. I do a lot of different meals with oatmeal on my channel just because of the fact that oatmeal is so inexpensive. This time I wanted to try doing the crepes. There are lots of different ways that you can make these. This was actually the first crepe that I made. The trick is to get your batter nice and thin enough to where it coats the pan and it's not too thick. I also thought there's a few different things that you can do with this, where you could put some pumpkin spice inside the mix to flavor it. You could also top this with whipped cream and strawberries. Personally, that's probably going to be my favorite way to eat this. It was a little bit sweet for me with the peanut butter on there, but if you're drinking it with some milk or some nice black coffee, it's going to help to balance it out. But overall, I thought it was really good, and it heated up nicely in the microwave the next day because I took it to my office for breakfast. So that's a huge plus because I do like having recipes that I can make up in advance and have them ready to go. I also like the fact that we added the egg in there, so it really makes this a more balanced breakfast in terms of protein. You've got the fruit, and then you also have the oatmeal, which is really quite satiating. I also like the fact that you could make these up for the week in advance and have them in your fridge. It just makes breakfast easy. Using your crock pot in the summer is definitely the way to go because it doesn't heat up your house and it barely uses any electricity. The day that I was filming this, I served 3 other people these tacos. I took out the amount of meat that I thought I would need and I placed it on a baking sheet, and I spread it out and I put it in the toaster oven at 350 for 20 minutes. I wanted it to have the same texture that it has when you have it at the Mexican restaurants. Just enough to give it a little bit of crispy around the outside. And then when I served the tacos, I served it in 2 tortilla shells, and then I scooped the chicken broth, which had all of that flavor in from the seasonings, into there, and then I topped it with the onions and cilantro and a slice of lime. Unfortunately, I didn't get a shot of the tacos with the pepper jack and the good lime. Justin was actually eating his tacos without any cheese, and he and I both agreed that they're better without the cheese because that way you can taste the flavor of the meat. I had to film this after because that's just the way it was. The lime was already all gone, but I wanted to show if you wanted to take this for lunch the next day, you could put the broth off to the side and then just pour it over the meat right before you eat it. But this was a huge hit in my family. I was shocked at how many meals I was able to get out of this, and I think it's a really great value if you're trying to feed a big family. We could have served this alongside a pot of rice, but like I said, we were in the middle of a heat wave and nobody felt like eating a lot of carbs, and it was plenty filling as is. It was all I could do to keep this pork set aside for these taquitos. I definitely wanted to make these for my video. If you've never tried to make your own taquitos, I definitely recommend doing it. They are way different than the kind that you buy in the store. I made these for my son and he loved them, and he made the comment that he was shocked at how much better they were than the ones that you buy that are pre-made. This corn salad is so refreshing and can be used in so many ways. It would be perfect to take for a potluck, for a family barbecue, and there's so many different ways to use this. It was delicious alongside the taquitos, but I'm also going to use this for my next dish. I'm going to make myself a burrito. I have a tiny amount of the black beans left over. I've got this pot of rice that I just made, so I'm going to go ahead and try out these gluten-free tortillas and see what I think of them. I think I overstuffed my burrito, but that's okay. It tastes delicious. The rice has the perfect amount of flavor. The corn salad mixture has a lot of flavor, and it really makes this taste like a Chipotle bowl, to be honest with you. That's as close that I can think of what this tastes like. I added a little bit of the guacamole there that was left over from my son's taquitos into that as well. And this is just, it's really delicious. I think that the shells, I don't think they stick together quite as good as the other ones, but it's kind of hard to tell because like I said, I did overstuff it, but the flavor is great. So I would definitely eat this again. And I feel like the corn salad is that missing ingredient that I've been needing in my Chipotle bowls that I make at home. I was so excited to try making sandwiches with the rice paper wraps. Unfortunately, the gluten-free bread is so expensive that I wanted to find a good alternative, and I thought that the rice paper wraps make a good choice because you can get 21 sheets of the smaller wraps for $1.88. Here, what I'm showing is I actually have the larger wraps left over from H Mart, and I'm not sure exactly how much I spent, but those were the ones that I had on hand. I went ahead and put the lettuce in, and I added a little bit of mayo. You could add in tomatoes and some of the cheese we had, but I made these just like this with the turkey and gave these to my son because he actually doesn't like tomatoes. This works perfectly to make a non-bread sandwich. I've made these and they've lasted in the fridge up to 3 days when I'm making the Thai spring rolls, and certainly you could do the same here. If it's me and I'm making these and I'm gluten-free, I'm going to load this up with all of my favorites. I'm putting tomato in there. I'm putting cheddar cheese. I'm putting, crispy cucumber. I'm putting all kinds of things in there on top of the meat and just making it something, that has a lot of substance. But I think that this is definitely the way to go. It's also great if you're just trying to eat lower carb. I also wanted to try this with an egg sandwich. So I hard-boiled an egg. I ended up mixing up mayonnaise and a little bit of mustard, and I used a little bit of paprika as well, and I just added that on there. But this turned out really, really good as well. I think that with a little bit more practice, I could probably make this be a really, really beautiful wrap in the way that you layer the eggs when you're wrapping this up. I also think it would be fun to maybe put some radishes in there and some other items that give you a little bit of that crunch factor. And it would be a nice offset to the taste of the egg. But like I said, this was really good. And I think it's a viable option for people that are needing to watch their carb count and also going gluten-free. As I got towards the end of the week, I realized I had all of this pepper jack cheese left over because we really didn't use it for the tacos because they actually tasted better without the cheese. So that is the benefit of making carnitas. But I ended up making myself quite a few quesadillas. Actually, we had tons and tons of the tortillas, and I served them up with some corn salsa and some rice, and it was a filling lunch for me. I had that actually several times for the menu. I'm going to post the menu for you, and everything you can imagine will be in the description. I do hope you guys liked this week, and if you're not doing the budget challenge, I do hope there's at least one recipe that you want to try in your home. I want to say a special thank you to Wendy Ducks and Stayfly3000 for the super thanks and supporting my channel. And thank you to every single one of you for your continuing support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.